So I'm here with Angela Mcardle. We're talking about the NPC meme, which is a non-playable character or non-player character. And I was just saying, I'm glad when you explain the concept, you mentioned Dungeons & Dragons, because when the so-called mainstream media explains the concept to normies, they always say that it's borrowed from video games. And I always want to say, no, it's not. It's from role-playing games.
People nowadays know it from video games, but video games borrowed it from Dungeons & Dragons.
Yes. How do you know that?
I know it from Dungeons & Dragons.
Right on. If you don't mind my asking, what generation are you in?
Ooh, I'm in that awkward in between Gen X and millennial. Sometimes people call it elder millennial.
All right.
I grew up without the internet.
Okay.
Partially because it didn't exist, and partially because maybe I was a little too poor when I was in early high school.
So just through circumstances, you're kind of pushed into the Gen X, I think.
I definitely am more relatable with the Gen X.
Excellent.
Millennial stuff is still kind of weird to me. I'm trying, obviously, really hard, hence my NPC meme booth.
And we haven't mentioned the L word yet, but I met you over at the, what is that booth?
That is the booth for the Libertarian Party of Los Angeles County, for which I am the chair.
All right. Say more about that.
Well, I chair the the Libertarian Party of Los Angeles County. We're out doing political outreach today. We have two candidates running in the election, one for Long Beach area, Assembly District 70, and one for AD 51, which is Northeast LA.
Who are those candidates?
Mimi Robeson for Assembly District 70 and Christopher Stair for Assembly District 51.
So I'm not familiar with California politics. Things break down differently. There are different job titles and such in Vermont. But where would you place those positions in the grand structure of California and more specifically Los Angeles governance? So
Assembly District for the state is a lot like House of Representatives nationally. Mm-hmm. They help to draft legislation for our state.
Okay.
And most of that is pretty terrible. So
the question for a libertarian, running for any parliamentary or basically any office that isn't, a high office, is what can they do?
Well, their votes count. Their votes count on the floor when we're looking at legislative pieces. They can also help to get bills to appear before the floor.
Mm-hmm. So what would a libertarian candidate bring forward that a Republican would not?
Oh, that's a good one. Well, we're going to be a little bit more aggressive with our anti-tax policy and also with our issues with environmental regulation. We really think that all of the legislative policies in California that are aggressive with environmental regulation are unfair to small business owners. Government is the biggest polluter. So we'd like to make things a little bit more fair and balanced and less oppressive for the everyday working person.
What could do that?
Legislation to repeal some of the aggressive environmental policies. And I say environmental, but there are plenty of other policy areas where that needs to happen.
So specifically, environmental policy is it's a big umbrella.
Sure. What
hurts business owners?
Okay, you could think about things that impact the dock. You could think about, here's a good one, the drinking straw ban. This is actually an environmental policy. It was recently passed. California has banned plastic drinking straws, so now businesses are going to have to buy paper straws if they want straws, or I guess they could also buy metal reusable straws. It's just another expense. It's another regulatory burden. It's just an obnoxious thing that anyone who owns a restaurant or a place that sells drinks has to go through.
So do you have sympathy in general with people who would say there's an enormous floating pile of plastic garbage in the Pacific Ocean that basically comes from disposable consumer items that we don't absolutely need in order to get by in life?
I absolutely do. The floating trash pile in the Pacific Gyre is a huge problem. Most of that is not from plastic drinking straws. Most of it is from other garbage and other plastic consumables, Happy Meal toys, plastic junk, plastic from electronic devices that gets discarded. There's all kinds of plastic. Drinking straws, they really don't take up that much of our plastics.
I've been a libertarian voter for decades, and for me, my driving motivation is the drug war. Firmly against it, and Republicans and Democrats have been in lockstep my entire life, basically in demonizing people who do, the unapproved drugs, while turning a blind eye and giving a free pass to alcohol and sugar and tobacco and a lot of really harmful substances, which are culturally enshrined. What's your primary connection to the libertarian mindset?
Oh, my primary connection? Well, I guess right now we could talk about the drug war and how it's very personal for me. I have Crohn's disease, and I use a high-potency THC oil in order to get rid of all of my symptoms. I would really like to see drug war repealed on a national level as well as a state level, because it's, my health is on the line.
Do you know that Vermont is the first state in the nation to legalize marijuana for responsible adult use via the legislature, not from a citizen initiative, but the legislature got it together and sent it to the governor, and he signed it.
Yeah, it's really amazing. I did not think that your governor was going to make that happen, but then lo and behold, he did.
Well, he dragged his feet for a year.
Mm-hmm.
The parliament, not the parliament, this is not Britain, but the legislature in Vermont, both houses have been willing to do this for years now. And they got a bill to Governor Scott last year, and he basically sat on it until a couple minutes, before it would have gone into law without his signature, and then vetoed it. And doing it so late, he did not give them any opportunity to revise the bill and get back to him. So basically, a delay, if you can delay any action, whoever's profiting from the lack of action gets to profit for a bit longer. So, and we had a lot of out-of-state money from groups coming in and just giving the most, 1980s shameless, this is your brain on drugs sort of talk about marijuana. I mean, come on.
It's interesting. I don't know a lot about Vermont, but I do know that industry is a little bit lacking. You have you have tourism, I know. Mm-hmm. You have, maple syrup, maybe some forestry. I couldn't really tell you what else I know about Vermont's industry. I know that you guys have been crushed by the opiate wars, the opiate addiction, I guess you'd call it, and I hope that cannabis legalization will help that out quite a bit.
I participate in something called Circles of Support and Accountability, where I'm kind of a mentor to a young man who's been released from prison, and he was there for drug charges, but also for burglary to feed his drug habit. And I was talking to him about it, and for people who are into heroin, marijuana tends to make them paranoid. And certainly there will be exceptions, but opium and opioid addicts typically don't like marijuana. And he says that had it been legalized when he was a kid, maybe it might have made a difference, but at this point, for him anyway, and for people that he knows, it's absolutely irrelevant.
That's a bummer. I would hope, though, that people can now turn to using cannabis for pain relief rather than an opioid prescription from their doctor. And maybe someone would be able to, ease off using a heavy indica that would make them feel a little bit more of that heroin high that they're used to, but definitely avoid the sativa if you're feeling a little paranoid and weird.
A problem that I have with marijuana legalization, not that I'm against it at all, but a problem in the implementation is that police say, well, we don't have a way to determine if somebody is incapacitated. So we are going to institute, I forget the exact name for it, but it's basically training officers to spot the signs of people being high, which is completely subjective. And, repeatedly, they have determined that people who have absolutely no THC in their blood are high and incapable of driving. And basically, it in doing something that you would think would cause the police to back off the citizenry a little bit, they've actually given the police the authority to bear down on the citizenry even harder.
Absolutely. It's a real problem. A large portion of the taxes for legalized cannabis in Los Angeles County go towards the police to help them understand, quote unquote, how they can crack down on people who are driving under the influence of marijuana. I really think that full decriminalization will help. When we talk about the difference between legalization and decriminalization, legalization usually implies lots of laws, regulatory issues, and penalties if you don't toe the line.
Right.
Full decriminalization would mean that it's just like roses at the grocery store.
Now, Vermont did something a little, this won't stand forever, but basically there's no provision for commercial sale. So you can grow it, you can give it away, but you can't sell it. We don't have stores yet. There's very few medical dispensaries in the state, but we haven't really legalized in a way that allows for the commercial distribution. What's your perspective on that, say, as a libertarian?
I say the black market is going to thrive. Humanity will find a way to sell that. You can't stand in the way of progress, right? And that's progress. And I'm sure that the government is going to find a way to tax it and benefit off of it as quickly as they can, unfortunately. but that will also, there's different ways to look at it, I suppose. You can look at it as, yay, the government is condoning it, and they're going to make some money to pay down debts. And the other way that you could look at it is, oh no, the government's found another way to benefit off of people who are just trying to make an honest living, deal with pain relief, have a good time.
Well, Angela, I've enjoyed talking to you. Do you have any organizations or websites that you'd like to make people aware of?
Absolutely. If you're interested in libertarianism in the state of California, you can visit ca.lp.org. If you live in LA County, you can visit lplac.us. We're very active at the county. We run candidates. We're interested in legislative initiatives. We have dinner and speaker meetups. We do all kinds of fun stuff.
Do you know any smart people here who are not libertarians?
Yeah, there's a guy in the booth next to me, the Mises Institute. He might be no party preference.
Okay, if he's from the Mises Institute, he's probably not. I'm looking for a little bit of balance. You're the second libertarian or third libertarian I've talked to today. But I'll just have to go and search.
Good luck. Happy hunting.
Thank you.